on the warm-up lap for the first race of two. Final round of the Dunlop Series for V8 Supercars at Sydney Olympic Park. Chaz Mostert will start from the front row with Nick Percat. James Moffat is alongside me in this track. 3.42 kilometres. Doesn't look exciting on the map, but I tell you what, when you get out there, those walls are close.
Without doubt, one of the most demanding street circuits we go to all year. Plenty of bumps, plenty of curbs. Watch for plenty of action at turns 1, 2 and 3 on the opening lap.
Big crowd here again. That is Merchandise Alley. It is hot. It is approaching 40 degrees for this first race of the weekend. The Armour All Pole Position Award has gone for the 5th time in 2012 to Chaz Mostert and Ford Performance Racing. He was half a second faster than Nick Percat's Coates High Commodore. Picks up some more cash, and the FBR boys were pretty rapt. But he needs to do something with it. That's the big key. Scott McLaughlin, series leader, is on road 2 with Scott Pye. So all the championship combatants are together. Ash Walsh will not start the race. He crashed in qualifying. Not enough time to repair the car. He is a DNS for this one.
Great job by the Russell brothers, Aaron and Drew, to come off 9th and 10th for this first race.
Jim Pollicino making his Dunlop Series debut. That's the ex-Steve Owen championship winning car from a couple of years ago. George Medicki and Rodney Jane both had dramas in qualifying. They will start down the back. So, race 1 of 2 for the weekend. Look for Luke Gilden. He's down the back of the pack as well, trying to win the Privateers Cup for 2012. Mostert and Percat from the front row of the grid. Great start from Mostert. Great start from Percat. The Ford will have the run at turn 1. Percat will go for it at turn 1. Slots in, covers the line, and we're off and running. Mostert locks it up. He's in too deep. He's in the fence. Rolling back into the pack. Oh, no. He's hit Pollicino. Yulden nowhere to go. Morgan Haben, Andy Kiss, Michael Hector, Rodney Jane, George Medicki. It's like a roll call.
So massive drama at the start of this race. Now Percat up over the curb, so he's wide. McLaughlin will be all over the back of him.
They're just trying to clear turn 1 there at cars. Stuck everywhere. Percat leads. McLaughlin having a little bit of a look at turn 5. Percat wide. He's in the fence. There's massive drama. He's in the fence on the left-hand side.
That's game over for Nick Percat.
2 of the title contenders have had major dramas within 2 corners.
So Scott McLaughlin, he will not be believing what's going on in front of him. Mostert in the tyres at turn 1. Percat in the fence at turn 5. And McLaughlin in the lead after lap 1.
And he's done. Percat's car, that's got damage. I don't think he's even going to get it going again. So McLaughlin leads. Pye, Wood, Emery, Andrew Jones, the Russell boys are up there. Those cars are 10 years old. They should not be running that far up the grid, but they are. And they've taken advantage of major errors from Percat and Mostert as Andrew Jones, the Kitten Commodore, having a look at Jeff Emery, who pretty excited this weekend. He picks up Craig Lowndes' car for next season.
That's certainly something to be excited about.
Absolutely. But
replay of the start. So Mostert finally got off the line well.
But he just got turn 1 wrong.
Brake, got in there too late, nosed straight into the tyres and then plucks reverse and backs into the back of the field. So that there is pretty average what he did there. Should have waited for the field to go by. But, yep, just locked her up on the right line and cold tyres into the tyres. And then to grab reverse.
Yeah, he didn't just roll back. He actually did hook reverse gear, which he probably didn't need to do. He probably had enough room to turn. On board, Rodney Jane, Bob Jane, T-Marts forward, and everyone just stops.
So those guys at the back of the field just nowhere to go. Now this, another championship changing moment. Percat on the outside. So we saw him get wide through the chicane at 2 and 3. That's allowed McLaughlin to have a bit of a sniff. Out in the marbles, into the fence, hard contact. That is it for the Coates High Commodore. And
it didn't look like there was contact between those two. Nick just got on the dirty part of the track, and McLaughlin takes the lead. Now, I've got the spreadsheet. There's smoke pouring off this spreadsheet here. Percat's out, he's walking away. Title is over, right here, right now. With Mostert buried in the pack, Pye running second, he could move to second in the points within 1 race from 4th. He said he was the guy who was going to go for it and had nothing to lose. He very well could leapfrog the wall.
I'll tell you who's going for it now. It is Scott McLaughlin. It's all fallen into place for him so far. So he's got 17 laps to get through. And he's 1 step closer to becoming the 2012 Dunlop Series champion.
Jeff Emery here, R&J Batteries Commodore from Greg Murphy Racing. It's the end of an era for GMR. They'll merge with Evans Motorsport, the Formula 4 team for next year, and they'll run under the Evans Motorsport banner. So Jeff looking to send them out on a high. He's going along quite nicely. Mostert here on the recovery trail. He's clawed his way back to Marcus Sukanovic and the Russell boys, Drew and Aaron, who in fact are going to pick up some new cars this weekend. A lot of cars from the main series being rolled into Dunlop Series transporters and taken home with them. These guys have secured Tim Slade's Lucky 7 car and Scott McLaughlin's Fujitsu car as Mostert puts a move on Marcus Sukanovic to start. Working his way up the order. Luke Jordan there, remember, he started down the back 17th. He caused a red flag in qualifying, so he's charging his way through as well. Oh, Andrew Jones, did he make it? I think he might have just.
He was doing everything he could to pull it up. Heard brakes locked on that Kitten Commodore, but Dale Wood, he's been a big beneficiary as Aaron Russell. He's having a look at Jeff Emery up the inside into turn 11, but Dale Wood, he's benefited greatly from the dramas that we've seen with Mostert and Percat so far in this race, sitting nicely in P3 at the moment.
And we talked about end of an era, the BF Falcon, the older model car that you saw there with the Russell boys driving. This is its last round. It will be phased out of V8 Supercars at the end of this year. The FG Ford will be the only one permitted in the Dunlop Series next year as Mostert slips on down the inside and works back to 7th place. But I wouldn't mind betting race controller still looking at what happened at turn 1, because he did actually hook reverse gear. Nick Percat is left to rue what could have been a pretty upset young fella, no doubt. The title's gone. We'll continue after the break. It's a fabulous sporting precinct, Sydney Olympic Park, and we are deciding a champ this weekend in the Dunlop Series. Nandy Kiss heading in pit lane with damage from that turn 1 collision. Scott McLaughlin leads, the 19-year-old in the Fujitsu Falcon. Scott Pye second in the Monster Commodore. Dale Wood, podium finisher in the last round at Winton. He sits third. Andrew Jones is next in 4th. And hot on his hammer is Chaz Mostert. Before the break, he made a mistake at the first corner of the first lap, went headlong into the tyre wall. He went right down the field and has been fighting his way back ever since. And
we saw drama with Chaz and Andy Jones at Winton that led to Chaz getting a 50-point penalty. Replay again of the start, so Mostert, yeah. I wonder what Tim Edwards is thinking about that. You know, the young guy's made a mistake, and I wonder what his thoughts on all that are.
Now, this was Percat making a little bit of a meal of the chicane. He struggled. He was a little bit slow to get off the corner. McLaughlin put his nose in the gap but just bailed out at turn 5. Nick at the turn-in point is wide of where he would normally be. He's on the dirty stuff there, the rubber that builds up off the tyres over the course of a weekend. There's no grip. He punches the fence on the outside, punches into the fence on the left-hand side. He is done for the race. He will start race 2 from the back, but he knows, the series is gone. He's done such a good job in the last 2 rounds to fight his way back into it. It's a bit of an anticlimax for it to end like that.
It is. It's a real shame for him. Like you said, he's done an absolutely fantastic job the last 2 rounds of the series, being without doubt the 4-man. And for it to all finish like that for him, it's going to be hard for him to accept that, but he can come back for race 2 and hopefully finish the year off on a good note.
Love this run up towards turn 9. Pye looks very, very pacey. That Monster Commodore won the title last year in the hands of Andrew Thompson, and McLaughlin's Ford, he's been driving all season. It's a few years ago, that was Alex Davison's original Irwin Stone Brothers FG Falcon, so great history throughout the cars in this field. Look at Pye launching the right-hand side off the curbs. He's attacking. He is absolutely having a run. He's won 1 race this year at Barbagallo. He hasn't won a round, but he's looking solid this weekend.
And don't forget, Noons, this is Scott Pye's first trip to Homebush, as we see a replay of Luke Yulden getting into the wall, coming onto the front straight. So quite heavy contact there in the J-Leg Falcon, but just back on Scott Pye, obviously in a Triple 8 prepared car, so he's arguably probably got the best car out there in the field, but he's still doing a fantastic job, and he's got the headlights on, so Scott McLaughlin will certainly know he's there.
Will Davison from FPR watching on. Chaz Mostert, his younger teammate. Here he is, position 4 in the 56 Falcon, and the former Formula 4 champ is making up ground on Dale Wood in the Greg Murphy Racing Commodore. No doubt he's got absolute speed in this car. It has been one of the fastest all year, but how's the irony? He talked at the start of the show of improving his starts. He made a really good start. He just made a meal of turn 1.
Yeah, he did, and The last few rounds, he's absolutely given away probably race victories with poor starts, starting off pole position at Bathurst and Winton. That gets you back in the mid-pack in where all the trouble happens. And like you said, finally got off the line well, maintained his starting position, and ended up in the tyres.
Really solid here, mate. Take a drink, keep your cool. You're doing a great job.
So that sounded like a bit of radio chat to Scott McLaughlin, who is doing a fantastic job out the front of the race. He's doing what he needs to do to try and get this championship under his belt.
And that was Nathan Leach, the engineer for the 93 Ford, who worked with Russell Ingall, in fact, when the Enforcer won the championship in 2005. But loved the way that you watch the really good cars, the really strong cars, the way they soak and absorb the violence of the curbs is quite amazing compared to the cars that are struggling and perhaps not as well set up or not as well engineered or don't quite have the same resources.
And it's no surprise that these guys are running up the front of the field and have run up the front of the field all year. You've got Chaz Mostert, FPR, Scott Pye, Triple Eight, Scott McLaughlin, Stone Brothers, Nick Percat, Walkinshaw Racing, the four powerhouse teams in V8 Supercar Racing at the moment. But have a look at this, a bit of a Bob Jane T-Marts battle going on at the moment. George Medecki in what will become the defunct BF Falcon, chasing his team boss Rodney Jane in the FG Falcon.
This is the turn 2, 3, 4 chicane, and look at the boys getting hungry on the curbs. And George, a rookie this year in the Dunlop Series, won a ute round here a couple of years ago. They've had a little bit of a struggle in the last few events. Jim Policina just stepping out of the way for Wood and Mostert to come on by.
So the car that Mostert backed into at turn 1 was Policina, and now they just passed him. So black flag, it sounds like, maybe
given us
for...
a pit lane penalty for careless driving at turn 1, lap 1.
This is
We're
big.
just trying to sort it out.
That's Dave Patterson, race engineer for Chaz Mostert. He's going to be given a pit lane penalty for what we saw on lap 1, turn 1, where he hooked reverse gear and backed into the pack, literally.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that Chaz has copped a penalty, but what I am surprised at is it's taken 11 laps for the officials to decide that. So had that come a bit earlier in the race, it would have given Chaz time to do the drive-through penalty and then get as many positions back. But, you know, he's only got 6 laps now to come into the pits, drive through the pit lane at 40 kilometres an hour. That's really going to hurt his race. So surprising that that decision has come that late.
Reverse gear when you hit the wall. That's too wide.
So you can hear Dave Patterson asking whether Chaz selected reverse gear. So that's obviously what the penalty is for. Clearly we saw him.
Survey pit lane penalty, please. Pit this lap.
And once the call's made from race control, you can't, no, smart move, Chaz. Take it, cop it on the chin, and get on with it, because you can't argue your way out of it. Once the penalty's given, you must respond to the black flag. You must pit. Whether you think it's right or wrong, you have to cop it.
You're exactly right. You can argue until you're black and blue in the face, but once the black flag has been issued, it will never be withdrawn. So Mostert has 3 laps to respond. He's in pit lane now.
In pit lane. Right. So this is a drive-through. We believe you're going to come out around Drew Drussel, Zakanovic.
40 k's an hour. It seems so slow. It seems like the series that Mostert is not destined to win. Approaching the end of race 1. We'll go to the flag when we come back at Sydney Olympic Park. You're back with the Dunlop Series for V8 Supercars, the stars of the future at Sydney Olympic Park. And it's a frustrated Chaz Mostert you're looking at from Ford Performance Racing. He's been in the pit lane, he's taken a drive-through penalty, he's rejoined, and he's now just trying to claim as many spots as he can before the checkered flag.
He certainly is, and he will be definitely frustrated inside that car. It's not turned out as he would have hoped. A bit more action back in the pack with the T-Mart Falcons, and George Medecki running up the escape road at turn 1. So bit of a flick turn on board here. Just got in there a bit too deep, realised he wasn't going to make the corner, so rather than turn it in and have potential contact with the tyres, we saw Chaz Mostert end up in, and have a look at his boss, Rodney Jane.
Geez.
4 wheels off the deck.
Oh, 2 more as well. That's
absolutely pounding the curbs.
Ex-Craig Lowndes Falcon, Jim Policina here, the Earth-X Commodore, ends up in the tyre bundle. He's recently purchased this car, but having a look at the leaders, McLaughlin and Pye, no one else is close. So it's great news for both of them. McLaughlin to extend the points lead. Remember, it's 150 points for a race win in both of the races. Same point structure as the V8 Supercars Championship. Scott Pye, from 4th in the points coming into this race, will be 2nd in the championship if they finish pretty much as they are, and Chaz Mostert doesn't make his way further up the order.
So having a look now at the Fujitsu Falcon, see how it rides the curbs at turn 2 and 3. Just have a look at the load that goes through the car, and I can tell you from a driver's point of view, you feel every bit of that in the cockpit yourself. Big force through the car, and a lot of force on the drivers around this circuit.
It's almost a case of anything one can do, the other can have a crack at. Andrew Jones there, the Kitten Commodore, having a run at the chicane. Pye has kept the pressure on Scott McLaughlin, but the Fujitsu Ford that has struggled the last couple of rounds. Bathurst, he had bad luck. A delaminated tyre that a few other drivers had put him in the pits. Nathan Leach, their engineer, to the left. Mikey Flynn in the middle there, long-time Stone Brothers Racing mechanic, working with this young 19-year-old who has worked as an apprentice fabricator at the team. He now works at Pace Innovations on the Gold Coast that have been building the chassis for Car of the Future for next year. So he's getting a really good 101 knowledge of V8 supercar racing from right deep within the industry.
And of course, we don't know what Scott's up to next year. A bit of speculation around that he might step up to the main series. So certainly if things keep going like they are for him this weekend, if he can take out the championship, that's going to help him in securing a main series drive for next year.
And he's not the only Scott linked with the drive in next year's main championship. Scott Pye, who has been backed and assisted by Roland Dane of 888 for the last few years. Even when he raced in England and Europe, he's been linked to potentially a move with the Lucas Dumbrell team. Remember that they run 888 chassis and a technical tie-up there, so they're expanding to 2 cars next year. He's having a bit too much of a go late in this race, and that really lets McLaughlin off the hook.
Speaking of who's off the hook, Aaron Russell coming under attack from Chaz Mostert. So pretty easy pass for Mostert up the inside into turn 9. That gets him up to P6. So considering all the dramas that he's had in this race with the drive-through, obviously the incident turn 1 that we've spoken about, good recovery and fight back to P6.
And to get to that point, that will keep him alive for the final race, but he will totally be an outside chance. He'll need dramas for these two. McLaughlin and Pye are on their way home. The final lap of race 1 in the final round of the Dunlop Series, the development category for V8 Supercars. It was established back in 2000. It's had a range of great young drivers come up through it, the likes of Mark Winterbottom, this year's Bathurst champ Paul Dumbrell. We've seen Jonathan Webb make the step up, Steve Owen as well, your good self, came via this championship. It's a place for the older cars to end up running, for the young drivers to make a name for themselves, but it's become an absolute integral part of the V8 supercar industry.
And this young bloke, Scott McLaughlin, he's making a name for himself right now. This is the perfect way for him to start his championship weekend, hopefully for him. He's done a perfect race. Things fell into his lap after the first lap with Mostert and Percat having trouble, but he's done everything he needed to do, and he's going to come across the line and take out race 1.
Great work, mate, great work. You've just put 150 points into Percat and about 80 into Mostert. Woo!
Thank you, Mostert. Thanks, everyone. Oh, yeah, boys. Exactly what we needed, man.
That's one very happy driver in that Fujitsu Falcon. And Mostert now, he's still attacking the back of Jeff Emery, so every little point's going to count for Mostert if anything was to go wrong for McLaughlin or Scott Pye in race 2, but looks like Emery's going to hold on for P5.
He will keep it alive to the final race, Chaz Mostert, but his title chances have just about slipped away. Recapping the order, McLaughlin, Pye, great job, Dale Wood, 3rd in race 1. Jones is 4th from Emery. The Russell boys 7th and 9th. Luke Yilden 8th from 17th on the grid. And Marcus Sukanovic rounded out the top 10.
Well, Scott, you must be going through a few emotions right now.
Tell you what, it's unbelievable, you know. We just kept our noses clean. I knew something was going to happen with those front two, so... Well, I didn't, but, you know, it came off for us, and, hey, man, I'm stoked. We've got one more race to go, but, you know, it's just good feeling to win. It's good feeling.
On the flip side, though, the feeling of tasting concrete is terrible. Nick Percat's title charge in 2012 came to an end on lap 1.
Oh, Nick, what happened there?
I was just pushing as hard as I possibly could, obviously, and got not a bad start. Obviously, even with Chaz, but opted to kind of duck in behind him, and that worked out quite well. Obviously, he made a mistake into turn 1 and ended up in the fence. Then we just got around to turn 5, and me and Scotty were kind of, he was at my rear quarter. Tried to leave him a little bit of room, but just to be honest, made a bit of a mistake and lost the rear of the car on turn in, and then couldn't recover it. So we gave it our all. We've still won the most races this year. It's been a very good year for Coates Hire, so I've done all I could, and we'll still press on tomorrow and see how many we can carve through.
After the break, it's the final race of 2012. The title's on the line in the Dunlop Series for V8 Supercars.